In a world teetering on the edge of imbalance and potential doom, an experimental organization known as Chaldea are the ones bringing themselves to restore it. With the help of famous historical figures as their servants, Chaldea relies on the need of masters to travel through 7 different singularities, so that they can collect the Holy Grails to prevent a horrible future. We see our main characters organizing a meeting with each other. Our main protagonists consist of a boy by the name of Fujimaru alongside female servant Mash. Assisting them in their journey to restore the world is trusted expert Dr. Roman alongside historical figure Leonardo da Vinci. Previously, Fujimaru and Mash had used a machine known as the Ray Shift to travel to their desired singularities to collect the Holy Grails. It is revealed that Fujimaru and Mash have already finished traveling through their first 6 singularities, and now their final one is within arm's reach. Dr. Roman informs the two of their destination being the year of 2600 BC, where ancient Mesopotamia resides, previously known to be the end of the Age of Gods. It is a time where both monsters and humans had existed alongside each other, and it's also theorized by Roman and da Vinci that this may be their toughest singularity yet. Regardless, the traveling pair are eager to move ahead with this dangerous operation. In setting the destination of the Ray Shift to their desired location, a transition is made towards the skies of a hotter climate than our duo are used to. Mash and Fujimaru initially struggle to recognize their surroundings, but in using her special ability, known as a Noble Phantasm, Mash deploys her shield, creating a barrier that breaks the two's rough fall. Finally landing in ancient Mesopotamia, Dr. Roman and da Vinci use a wristband to communicate with the two, telling them that they're not safe just yet. Giving them a warm welcome, a slew of monsters emerge to disrupt them, possessing far more hostility than they've ever faced before. They decide to retreat for now, however, as they believe safety is within reach. Fujimaru is promptly squished as a girl tumbles onto him. She gets up from our main character, refusing to introduce herself. When telling her that they're a part of Chaldea, the girl shows interest, saying that they must be guests from afar. The conversation cannot continue, however, as more monsters emerge. The newly met girl vanquishes a few with beams of light, eventually saying goodbye to the duo after having rescued them, believing that they'll meet once more in the future. Fujimaru and Mash take note of this, and in trying once again to escape the onslaught of monsters, they then proceed to be helped by another entity. Shockwaves of light defeat the beasts pouncing after them, revealing new ally Enkidu. Dr. Roman informs the two that Enkidu was known as a good-hearted hero, and one who the supposedly tyrannical King Gilgamesh would be unable to stop during this time. Enkidu agrees to be Fujimaru and Mash's guide, and as they begin their walk towards the town of Uruk, Enkidu gives some exposition towards the events of this singularity, which is that over 60% of Mesopotamia has been taken over by the Three Goddess Alliance, an organization wanting the incineration of humanity. The trio meet a pair of travelers in a forest who introduce themselves as Merlin and Anna. Fujimaru and Mash happily introduce themselves, however, as Enkidu says their name. Merlin says their name is interesting as Enkidu should have been dead a long time ago. Immediately, Enkidu sends sparks of electricity to attack the group, however Merlin quickly orders Anna to defend them. Mash tries as well to join the fight, however Merlin assures them there isn't a need to fight, instead conjuring up an array of petals that allow for them to vanish from Enkidu. Taking a rest in a campfire, the group introduces themselves. Merlin tells the group the best course of action is to see the king of Uruk, Gilgamesh, who previously had been friends with Enkidu. The next day, they do just as Merlin recommends, and the group meets Gilgamesh. Fujimaru notices that despite being a supposedly tyrannical king, Gilgamesh treats his subordinates with respect, skillfully giving them orders in the process. After a brief fight to test the group's worth, Gilgamesh denies helping Chaldea's objective. Fujimaru begs for him to change his mind, going as far as to promise the defeat of the Three Goddess Alliance. As Gilgamesh is denying them once more, an attendant interrupts with urgency, telling him that one of the goddesses, Ishtar, is causing mischief. The ceiling crumbles above the group, revealing the girl that the pair had met previously to be none other than Goddess Ishtar. They begin a tough battle, however Fujimaru begs for cooperation from her. She refuses to abide, instead choosing to retreat once she realizes the pattern on Anna's cloak. After the fight, Gilgamesh looks on at the group, saying that he has decided to cooperate with Chaldea, so long as the group can do some chores for him to gain his trust. Fujimaru agrees readily, and as they leave, Sijiri, Gilgamesh's attendant, introduces them to their new home to rest within, where they also meet friendly faces Ushiwakamaru, Leonidas, and Benkai. During the following month, the group is hard at work to complete many chores for the king. One day on their way back, Fujimaru offers food to an elderly man. In return, he tells them to look out for the 3 catastrophes aiming to wipe out Uruk before promptly disappearing. The duo takes heed of this advice, however, are left in confusion. Gilgamesh gives the group another task later on to investigate the town of On their way there, a new foe, Jaguar Man, appears. She proudly provokes the group before disappearing again, promising to meet them later. This happens exactly as foretold, as when they arrive in Ur, Merlin is the first to notice in their time there that there are fewer men than average. Addressing the townspeople about this, they claim that so long as they follow the forest goddess orders, they can continue living happily. This forest goddess reveals himself to be Jaguar Man, who expertly fends off the group when a fight is started. Realizing she's much too powerful to fend off, Fujimaru reluctantly calls for a retreat, vowing to help the village out as soon as he is able to. Gilgamesh later asks for another request where they can all survey the waters around the Persian Gulf. This time, he tags along with them, learning more about the group through the stories they tell him. Unfortunately, as they're resting during their arrival together, Fujimaru and Mash notice Enkidu. They insult the duo, making Mash realize that all along, this may not have been the real Enkidu. Enkidu engages the two in battle, however Gilgamesh appears, saving them from carnage. Unknowingly, his appearance and taunts force them to retreat, causing confusion amongst our heroes. Gilgamesh shrugs, saying it's better they retreat now than to question it. Once again, the group is given a mission from Gilgamesh. This time, it's to retrieve the Tablet of Destinies from the abandoned city of Kutha. Before departing, Fujimaru shares a moment with Ushiwakamaru, where he talks of his dream to prevent sadness from those he cares about. She gets excited, realizing they both share the same dream. The next day, during their travels, the group find the state of nearby lands to be in disarray, where they then learn that it's a result of Ishtar's rough battles with demonic beasts from one of the passing residents. They also learn from Merlin that Ishtar got summoned and reincarnated as she died a long time ago. They continue venturing inside Kutha, where after splitting up, Fujimaru and Fu notice a human shadow beside them. Following it, Fujimaru finds himself alone within the underworld with the undead after him. They begin strangling him, however a familiar face saves him, being the old man that he and Mash had offered food to before. He introduces himself as Zushutora before sending him back, where he and his group realize the tablet in his hands. As they're thinking about this phenomenon that happened, Ishtar appears, attacking the group as a result of wanting the tablet as well. Fujimaru manages to lure her into attacking only him, allowing Anna to find an opening and defeating her. Interrogating her, they find out the motives of the Goddess Alliance, being to take the Holy Grail from Gilgamesh before the other goddesses can get it. Realizing the group are being ambushed once again by the undead, Fujimaru frees Ishtar, who then saves them from their enemies before retreating. Back at Uruk, the group visits the army holding back demonic beasts away from the city. It is here they meet Leonidas, a powerful warrior who is quick to urge Fujimaru and Mash into rigorous training. After being acquainted, the group organized with him and Ushiwakamaru to head towards the town of Nippur, where they need to save the residents being cornered by demonic beasts. The next day, the operation begins to save the people of Nippur. As Fujimaru and Mash's squad separate from Ushiwakamaru's, they find nobody present in Nippur. Worse still, a trail of blood leading towards the fake Enkidu is seen. He smiles, summoning the great beast Ugalu, who Anna engages in fierce combat with. After reinforcing her weapon's strength through Merlin's magic, she defeats Ugalu, however Enkidu traps her, stabbing her in the process. Merlin calls for Fu to save her, who quickly runs off and disappears with Anna from the battle. Meanwhile, Enkidu summons another foe, who he calls Mother. Dr. Roman identifies her as the servant Tiamat. She freezes Fujimaru and Mash in fear as the battle begins. However, with her courage to continue, they find the strength to rally against her. Nearby, Ushiwakamaru manages to catch up to the group, hoping to assist Fujimaru in his time of need. As Mash tries her best to defend against her beams, Ushiwakamaru appears, telling the group to retreat. They do just that, however, much to their dismay, Tiamat appears from the ground of the Urukian base, holding Ushiwakamaru through her snakes. Leonidas commands his army defend against her, utilizing Gilgamesh's noble phantasms to harm her. He identifies her as not Tiamat, but Gorgon, a monster who shouldn't exist. He inflicts a large wound on her, however she counters, killing him. Once the dust clears, Fujimaru looks around, realizing Leonidas has been defeated. Seeking to avenge those who fell, Ushiwakamaru gets back up. She summons multiple illusions of herself, each of them climbing atop her snakes to deal damage. Once finally reaching her face, she forces an explosion to occur. The dust clears, and as Fujimaru and Mash look up, they notice the Holy Grail's glow inside of Gorgon. She says it isn't the Grail helping her heal, but something else. Originally wanting to invade Uruk to kill Gilgamesh, Enkidu stops her, saying that they should instead go after the Goddess Alliance so that they can counter any other threats to Uruk. She listens, retreating. It is then Enkidu finally reveals himself to be Kingu, someone wishing to become the next generation for humanity, taunting Fujimaru to leave. As time passes, everyone takes time to mourn the deaths of this encounter. Fujimaru raises the spirits of the army, saying they should do whatever they can to help those in need. Elsewhere, Ushiwakamaru wakes up. Kingu notices, informing her that she's in a place where corpses of humans are used to create demonic beasts. After taunting them aggressively, Kingu drags Ushiwakamaru away, where they'll ask Gorgon to turn her into a far more dangerous beast than originally intended for her. When reporting the situation to Gilgamesh, he suggests it being the right time for a counterattack. He appoints Fujimaru to do the impossible, befriend and make Ishtar his servant. Despite being scared to do so, he and his group agree, where they then travel to her temple within Mt. Ebi. When meeting her, she starts the interaction by firing a beam at the group, clearly visibly annoyed. They begin telling her the intentions of alliance, however, after not agreeing to join them. Anna uses this opportunity to fight her head-on. They're vastly overpowered, however, Fujimaru employs Gilgamesh's secret method. And being a goddess who craves riches, he uses a pouch he had brought with him to scatter jewels of varying quality everywhere. After promising to offer her more in return for joining, Ishtar agrees to help the group. During their journey back, Fujimaru and Ishtar interact with one another. He is put off from sitting with her once she changes appearance for a moment when sneezing. Ishtar, not noticing this, asks him why he is acting startled. He keeps quiet about the situation. Ishtar tells Fujimaru of her ambitions, wishing that gods and humans could live at peace with one another. She hates how humans abandon the guidance of gods to forge their own way, and it is because of this that she showed her earlier hostilities to Gilgamesh. This time, Gilgamesh wants the axe of Marduk to defeat Gorgon. He tells the group of it being located in Eridu, where Jaguar Man was nearby. Before discussing further, the southern gate is reported to be destroyed. Fujimaru and the group rush towards the oncoming threat, where they all meet Quetzalcoatl for the first time. She tells the group that she's doing what she does as a result of a command from her mother, leading to Mash attempting to engage in combat with her. However, she leaves, saying she already fulfilled her quota of killing 100 people. Gilgamesh is annoyed by these events. Asking for Dr. Roman's help, he suggests a head-on assault towards her base to the south of Urb. Once there, they must destroy her temple, as it's the source of her devastating power. On their way, Ishtar tells Fujimaru that as a result of being the apex of good, Quetzalcoatl would be weak to anything considered bad. Jaguar Man tries her best to get the group's attention, where it is revealed that despite being a rogue servant, she only follows Quetzalcoatl for survival. Fujimaru makes her his servant, and they proceed to find that the people they sacrificed in Ur were actually always alive. Now confirming that Quetzalcoatl's intentions were always good, they venture forth to fight her. Approaching the Temple of the Sun, the group find out that the axe of Marduk is larger than they realized. Quetzalcoatl is also seen readying herself to fight the group. Our heroes begin brawling with her as she talks of fighting to understand others. Fujimaru uses this opportunity to proclaim that he fights to provide a better outcome for everyone, impressing her. Quetzalcoatl allows the group to destroy her noble phantasm, provided they can beat her. Everyone allows Fujimaru to run upwards to destroy her altar. As he makes his sprint, the rest of our heroes below are slowly defeated in combat until finally it is only Fujimaru left at the top. Realizing he can do nothing, he promises to show Quetzalcoatl the true extent of humanity. He commands Ishtar to ascend him upwards, where he then jumps down. Waking up, he finds Quetzalcoatl and his friends comforting him. It is revealed Fujimaru did what he did as a result of Quetzalcoatl secretly loving humans, allowing him to turn her love for them to his advantage. Quetzalcoatl agrees to become his servant. When alone, Dr. Roman scolds Fujimaru for his reckless actions, however, is cut off. He and Mash ponder Dr. Roman's true intentions, as they previously found out before that he was part of the Holy Grail War that destroyed humanity years ago. On their way back, the group sees Sidri in a panic. She tells them dire news, being that Gilgamesh is in danger. When returning, they find that Gilgamesh has collapsed into an eternal slumber from overwork. Sidri elaborates on this, reporting that cases of death from weakness have been happening all over Uruk. Quetzalcoatl notices this cause, telling the group that the third member of the Goddess Alliance, Ereshkigal, is the reason behind this. And it turns out that Ishtar is not a member of the Alliance, but simply the other half of Ereshkigal, who represents her darker side. The group now need to save the king through defeating Ereshkigal, and to do this, they need to venture into the underworld. Ishtar leads Mash and Fujimaru below, where Istar explains that at a young age, Ereshkigal had been forced to remain in the underworld to fulfill her duties, never truly seeing what was above as a result. Ishtar reports that as they go further down, her divinity is gradually lost, leading to her shrinking in size. Finding this amusing, Gilgamesh appears, laughing at her predicament. As it happens, Gilgamesh had hid his spirit away in the underworld before he collapsed. He joined Fujimaru's group, where they all finally reach the bottom level of the underworld. Ereshkigal finally appears, surrounding the area with deathly ice. Despite feeling weak from the cold climate, Fujimaru resists, asking Ereshkigal to bring Gilgamesh back and to help face Gorgon's threat. When telling her that he believes she is good inside, Ereshkigal is angered, sending pillars of ice at the group as a result. Gilgamesh and Ishtar agree to join the fight, and an offensive stance is created. Ishtar notices Ereshkigal's lance, quickly informing the group that getting rid of it will weaken their enemy. Charging ahead, both Mash and Gilgamesh slowly break away her lance. Ereshkigal now shows anger, screaming to Fujimaru that all she ever wanted was to experience what life was truly like from above. Watching her other half, Ishtar, doing these things had upset her, as unlike Ishtar, she was never commended for the work she did. Fujimaru tells her he won't commend her either, or he would hurt her pride. He instead uses one of his command seals on Mash to protect Ereshkigal's pride as a goddess. Using her noble phantasm, the group finally wins against her, and she succumbs to defeat. It is revealed that whenever Ishtar had changed form when with Fujimaru, it was actually Ereshkigal watching over the group, and it was for this reason that he believed she was good, before she can acquaint herself. Ereshkigal is struck down by the old man, who assures the group that he didn't kill her, but rather unbound her from her duties. He says he is a friend from another land, telling Fujimaru that whatever happens to Uruk is up to him. As he disappears, Ereshkigal now formally joins to help the group fight against Gorgon, away from the front lines. The group are happy with this, and Gilgamesh soon returns to his original body back in Uruk. Our heroes meet back with Gilgamesh in the ziggurat, where they discuss the next plan of action. He plans for the main army to confront the demonic beasts fully, whilst Fujimaru and his team can sneak into Gorgon's base of operations. To ensure this, Quetzalcoatl offers to throw the axe of Marduk towards the temple to disable the seal, which Merlin agrees to help in the aiming process. With these plans set in motion, the group begins their preparations. Fujimaru and Mash meet an old woman before they set off. She tells them that during their travels to battle Ereshkigal, Anna had been helping her through her illness. She gives them a flower headband to give to Anna to thank her. The next day, the main army begins their attack on the demonic beasts, whilst Quetzalcoatl engages in a large fight with Kingu. She manages to throw the axe as planned towards Merlin's group, successfully destroying the base. Kingu notices this and retreats from the battle to help in saving Gorgon. Finally venturing within the base, the group manage to finally face Gorgon. Gorgon is especially afraid of Anna and her aura. Anna asks in a moment of confidence for Merlin to release her powers of divinity, prompting her mystic eyes to awaken. Gorgon and the group begin fierce combat against one another. Trying desperately not to look at her mystic eyes, Gorgon struggles against Anna, eventually finding herself about to be slain. Anna talks to Gorgon as they fight, revealing that she was another version of her, and in slaying her, she too will disappear. As Gorgon is finally put to rest, she says her goodbye to Fujimaru, falling into an empty abyss below. Dr. Roman calls Fujimaru, telling him that the singularity hasn't disappeared yet, and something's gone wrong. It is then that Kingu reveals themselves, killing off Merlin as a result of rewriting the future. Summoning monsters that they dubbed the New Humans, they begin to invade Mesopotamia, causing havoc in their movements. Kingu leaves and the group runs back to Uruk to assist the fighting. When trying to fight them off, they unexpectedly begin to retreat. Taking this opportunity to meet with Gilgamesh, he calls these creatures Lamu, however brings unfortunate news that Sidri has been taken by them. He orders for Fujimaru's group to rescue her while he begins making preparations underway to combat the threat at hand, as Kingu has not only revived them but also Tiamat, a powerful primordial god. Making their way to a town nearby, our heroes try to fend off the Lamu, however Kingu appears. While initially taunting the group, they are unexpectedly stabbed by the Lamu, shocking everyone. The Lamu slowly speaks, revealing that despite being their mother, Tiamat has no need for Kingu, and as such is free to discard them. Taking the presence of the Holy Grail from Kingu, one of the Lamas evolves, flying away towards Tiamat's location. Our heroes give chase, however Kingu finds himself having to run from the army. When realizing they've been backed into a corner with nowhere to go, Kingu accepts their death, however is quickly saved by a rogue Lamu. They wonder why they were saved, however upon speaking, they realize the betraying Lamu was none other than Sidri. She thanks Kingu for all the time he had spent in his previous life with Gilgamesh when they were Enkidu, causing frustration to erupt from them. Meanwhile, our heroes are still giving chase to the flying Lamu. Through the efforts of Ishtar and Quetzalcoatl, they manage to pin it on the ground. As relief is found, it quickly fades with the appearance of a dark familiar presence, being a dark form of Ushwakaamaru. Ishtar assures Fujimaru that this is not her and is akin to a usual Lamu. Setting the flying Lamu free to reunite with Tiamat, Ushwakaamaru begins to fight the group. Mash and Quetzalcoatl manage to defeat her. However, she reappears, summoning clones of herself to hinder our hero's progress. Fujimaru transfers some of his energy to the weakened Ishtar, who inflicts wounds on all the Ushwakamarus through a myriad of beams. Talking to Gilgamesh through a communication system afterwards, Gilgamesh tells the group their next plan of action. They need to cross the sea to confront Tiamat. Dr. Roman suggests following where the strongest signal to the Holy Grail is located for the best outcome. The group then ventures forth to fight Tiamat. As Tiamat is unable to move freely, the group try to use this to their advantage. Ishtar uses this opportunity to fire her most powerful attack at Tiamat, and as the impact clears away, hope is found in the idea that she has finally been quelled. However, Dr. Roman realizes that her magical energy is resurging, and in a moment of chaos, her true form now appears, spreading a poisonous mud all across Mesopotamia. Quetzalcoatl suggests everyone retreats back to Uruk, where they can talk with Gilgamesh on their next course of action. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh erects a large wall to counter the mud encroaching Uruk. While it cannot hold for too long, it should be just enough time to fend her off. Unfortunately, when joining and discussing how to deal with Tiamat, Dr. Roman reports that as she is the mother of life, she can't die unless everyone around her is dead. While initially frustrated by this situation, a sudden interaction with Ereshkigal gives Fujimaru an idea. He suggests using the underworld to defeat her, as none of the living inhabit the area. Ereshkigal states it will take her 3 days to open the gates of the underworld to properly trap Tiamat. However, Tiamat will wreak havoc on Uruk in only 2 days. Running out of ideas for how to hold her off till then, Gilgamesh adjourns the meeting for now. During the night, everyone takes time to bond with one another, with the most notable interaction being between Kingu and Gilgamesh. He prevents Kingu from dying, telling them that Kingu is worthy of his protection, and as it's almost the end of the world, what they choose to do now is their choice. As everyone prepares for the final battle, Quetzalcoatl suggests using her noble phantasm to destroy the mud, helping Tiamat traverse Mesopotamia, allowing them to buy time before Ereshkigal can open the underworld gates. Using this as their method of operation, our heroes fly and first into battle, eventually fighting Ushikyu Akamaru as they try to close into Tiamat. Benkai appears to assist the group, allowing Fujimaru and Mash to fly towards safety. Whilst Quetzalcoatl's noble phantasm manages to clear out the mud below, it is then that Tiamat uses her wings to fly towards Uruk. In a moment of desperation, Quetzalcoatl unleashes one large attack, and with the help of Fujimaru, she manages to slightly weaken Tiamat. However, not enough. Only a small denture is made. Before all hope is lost, however, the skies suddenly clear up, and Gorgon makes a surprise appearance. She orders for Fujimaru to retreat while she deals with Tiamat. As Fujimaru leaves, Gorgon reveals herself to be Anna, and her reason for forcing them to retreat was so she wouldn't be upset when saying goodbye to them. As her attack is unleashed, Tiamat's wings are melted off, however, she is still able to walk through the mud she creates. Meeting with Gilgamesh again, Fujimaru and Mash witness him fighting Tiamat off. Elsewhere, Kingu makes a surprise appearance and saves Ishtar. Finally realizing that Enkidu's desire to talk to Gilgamesh had leaked onto them, Kingu happily uses their powers to trap Tiamat in a barrage of chains. Meanwhile, Ereshkigal finally reports that the gates to the underworld are ready. Ordering for Ishtar to fire a large hole into the ground, Fujimaru and Mash say their farewells to Gilgamesh as they fall to the lands beneath. Ereshkigal tells the duo that they are in a state of temporary death, and as a result, they are not suffering the consequences of the underworld. This is different to Tiamat, who is being deeply punished by the attacks of the area around her. In a moment of desperation, however, Tiamat covers herself in her mud, soon planning on taking over all of the underworld. Before covering up our heroes, a surprise appearance turns all the mud into flowers, revealing the return of Merlin. They can't celebrate, however, as Tiamat soon evolves into a new being entirely, Beast 2. The old man from before, however, makes an appearance to help fend her off. Everyone now works together to fend off Beast 2, however, she summons powerful Lamu to impede their progress, while she slowly tries to crawl back to the surface to wreak havoc. As Fujimaru tries to chase after Beast 2, he finds himself being saved from the oncoming Lamu threat by Gilgamesh. However, Beast 2 strikes back. She unleashes Negagenesis, a powerful spell that recreates life, only allowing the living within it. Ereshkigal erects pillars to stop Beast 2's attacks from proceeding, and Fujimaru volunteers to deal a final blow to the beast before them. Summoning their noble phantasms, Mash and Merlin assist Fujimaru in his mad dash to strike Beast 2. Without anyone but Ishtar noticing, Ereshkigal passes away peacefully. Having broken the rules of the underworld to keep Fujimaru and Mash within it, she finds herself weakened and unable to help. Ishtar mourns her death as the battle ensues. Meanwhile, finally making it towards the top of the fortress Mash summoned, Fujimaru falls downwards, striking Beast 2 and finally defeating her with the help of Gilgamesh. In far-off vision, he and Tiamat talk. He tells her that the people worshipping her still love her, regardless of how humans might evolve. She says her thanks, and as the vision ends, Fujimaru and Mash are seen lying on the ground above, back in Mesopotamia. Upon waking up at night, Fujimaru and Mash are greeted by Quetzalcoatl and Jaguar Warrior, where it is revealed that they were the ones who had saved our heroes from dying in the underworld. After a heartfelt conversation, Quetzalcoatl and Jaguar Warrior say their goodbyes to the group before eventually disappearing. Our duo continue traveling towards Uruk, where this time they see Ishtar and Merlin. Ishtar reports to the two, telling them that after defeating Beast 2, the underworld had completely collapsed, and it would take over a century just to see it to what it once was. When Fujimaru asks what the two will do now, Ishtar says she'll continue staying in Mesopotamia for a while longer, while Merlin says he himself will go back to his tower in Avalon. He says his final goodbyes to the group before eventually vanishing as well. Elsewhere, Gilgamesh and Kingu talk to one another. When asked why he does what he does, Gilgamesh says that it is his duty as a king to see to it that his people are happy, and he will do everything to fulfill this duty. Later, Fujimaru, Mash, and Ishtar meet with the king. Upon planting a flower to honor the lives lost during the Great Babylonian Battle, Gilgamesh wishes Fujimaru good luck for what the future has to offer. As Dr. Roman announces the Ray's shift to be complete so they can head back, Gilgamesh gives our heroes the last holy grail needed to prevent the end of humanity. Saying their final goodbyes, Fujimaru and Mash go back to the lab Kalda,